time and place when you can work from anywhere.
Two ladies in their mid to late 27s have decided to.
And they're calling it workationing.
Second stop, Medellín, Colombia.
We're here.
What do Kari and Kelly think of cartel country?
What made the ladies lock themselves in their apartment for several days?
How much does brunch cost, and what are the sex tourists like?
They look a lot like my cousin, actually.
Wait, I think I know that guy.
Are they safe, or is this the biggest mistake of their lives?
This is the Workationing Podcast. All right, yes, Nance.
It should be about trust. It should be about us. Girl, what's love?
That's beautiful.
Got to do with it, babe.
That's beautiful. Can we? Are you ready?
I'm ready. Okay, so
Girl,
are we gonna talk about how we haven't left the house in several days?
I don't know that we need to lead with that.
I mean, we could. So we've been here for 8 days.
Yes, we've been in Medellín, which it turns out, Medellín.
That's how you pronounce it. If you say Medellín.
Medellín.
No, but if it's Medellín, you're pronouncing it like a filthy Argentinian.
Yes. Also with a little bit of the j. You need to have a j. Medellín.
Yeah, the double L here is pronounced as a J, and I feel like that's very much a Medellín, Antioquia kind of thing.
Yeah, I think that's local.
Because it's not Patillo, it's Patillo.
Yeah.
It's not Botella, it's Botella, right, for bottle?
I know, and it's really not, we're having a hard time here.
Dialects. We're learning them. Ish. Okay, so we've been here for 8 days. Lesson learned number 1, I would say, we only fly on weekends now.
Yes. So when we booked our place in Puerto Rico, we decided we were going to be there for a month. So we just booked it from the 1st to the 31st without ever thinking about the fact of like what day the 31st was. So we ended up flying on like a Tuesday.
It sucked.
Which was real dumb.
International travel on a Tuesday. No bueno.
No bueno. Did not like.
No.
Would not do again. Especially because we really are working out here. That's 99% of what we do. And we have clients in the U.S. and just being like, hi, I'm going to be on a plane for most of a Tuesday.
No bueno.
No bueno. You've got to take vacation time. You don't want to do that. Just sort of.
You're up. You're tired. You're moving. It sucks. So moving forward, we only fly on weekends, and we will extend our Airbnb stays to make sure to accommodate the weekend travel plans.
Yeah, literally the whole point of this is that we can go wherever we want, whenever we want. So why we put ourselves in a shitty situation is
completely arbitrary in this specific instance.
Right. There was really no need for that.
So we only fly on weekends now. What was your general impression of the place when we first got in?
So even when we just landed, I've never been to South America before. You haven't either.
No, new continent.
Which we were excited about. We talked a lot about how this was sort of the trip that actually made us travelers because we were going from one place to another place without going home.
Yep.
Which is not something I think that we've really ever done before.
No, this is... I've been away from home for 2 months before, but this is obviously longer. This is going to be longer than I ever have been away.
Right. We were going to a whole new continent we hadn't been to before. I will say when the plane was landing, it was the most beautiful place I've ever seen in my life. It's just mountainous and lush and green and just absolutely unreal. Our car ride
was terrifying.
Harrowing as it was.
Just sweating bullets. You thought you felt alive when I was driving in Puerto Rico?
No, I would have taken that ride a million times more.
Blindfolded.
Yes.
Blindfold me. Put me on the street.
Just stick a cigar in my mouth.
I would have felt safer.
Right.
Ray Charlesing my way down the street.
Yeah, they really just kind of zip around, and there's motorcycles everywhere that are like splitting lanes all the time, except that you were on this like hairpin turn on the biggest mountain you've ever seen.
Double yellow line, by the way.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean anything out here.
Oh, no, not at all. Not a thing.
But then you come down into this valley, which is Medellín, and it is just the most spectacular city you've ever seen. And the views are amazing, and it's so clean. And
yeah, it's modern. It's beautiful. The buildings are absurdly gorgeous. The mountains are huge, and they sort of ring the city in. It's kind of hemmed in. And so you've got this spectacular city, and then just the biggest, most beautiful, like dreamiest mountains surrounding it. The tops of some of these mountains I haven't even seen yet. Like they're up in the clouds just at all times.
Some gorillas in the mist shit for sure.
Yes.
And there are casinos here, which normally I like to gamble. I will get into this later. I will not be gambling at any of the casinos in Medellín.
Yeah, I don't like to gamble personally, but I would not go into any of these casinos.
I don't think anybody wants to see me at a poker table. I don't want to see anybody else at a poker table. I will not be at poker tables in Medellín.
No. Something that we should mention is that when we got our taxi from the airport,
we immediately got scammed, but that was our fault.
It was. So we came to a whole new country, and we didn't think it would be a good idea to find out about like the exchange rate at all. Just what is money here? We don't know.
This many.
Yeah.
How much is this many?
Yeah. So we ended up paying $65 American for a cab ride, which is just like $1 million here. Like it's just all of the money.
It seemed actually very reasonable to me. $65 USD seemed like a steal.
For a 45-minute cab ride into a city from an airport, that seems like totally reasonable.
That's like $5 a panic attack.
Right.
If you break that down.
Right. But so actually, though, that was about... it was actually 65 Colombian,
which is
like a smooth 20-some dollars.
Yeah, you want to divide by 3 here. Divide by 3,000 specifically.
Yeah.
So just knock off a few zeros and then divide by 3, and that's where you're at. And Ubers are plentiful here, but not so much at the airport. It's difficult to catch an Uber at the airport, but here, once we got into the city, they're everywhere.
Well, what we figured out, if anyone has watched Narcos, which we've started to watch, this is either a brilliant or a horrible place to start watching Narcos, really depending on how you look at things. So in Narcos, what we learned is that Pablo Escobar originally used Escobar Taxi, which was his business, to start laundering all the money that he was making just off of all of that cocaine.
Right. Well, it's a cash business.
Yeah. And so the taxis are still very much caught up with the cartels, which are still very much a thing here.
We'll get into that shortly. I can't wait to tell these people maybe we should have thought this one through a little further.
Yeah. So the Ubers here, here's a fun story, make you get into the front seat of the car.
Yes. Yeah. So Kelly and I, one of us always has to sit in the front seat when we jump into an Uber.
They freak out if you try to get in the back. And it's because they have to look like there's somebody who's just picking you up. Like, in the U.S., if you get an Uber, if you look, there's usually like an Uber sticker on it.
Yep.
Not here.
Little mustache or something.
Because you are not supposed, because the taxis don't take kindly to Uber.
They do not.
They do not. And so they will just rip the drivers right out of their car
and light the Ubers on fire,
and then just beat the driver in the streets,
and maybe the passengers too.
Yeah,
just kick their asses.
So you just have to get in the front seat, Gringa.
You do.
Like, where are we?
Medellín, Colombia. Welcome to it.
And you know what the funniest thing is about it is that it's just still easier to use Uber because you can put in the address and then it just takes it out of your account. You don't need money. So we know all of this.
And the Uber drivers are safer because they're going by a rating system and market forces. That makes sense, right?
Right. And so we just decide. So we know all this about Uber.
It's both safer and more dangerous to take an Uber, depending on your perspective.
Yeah, you just have to be real friendly, like you know the person when you.
He
get
might
into
be your
Uber.
boyfriend, maybe.
Yeah, maybe he is.
Could be.
Nobody knows. So yeah, that's still taking Ubers, but with a new appreciation.
So basically, we have found ourselves still in Latin America, but in the opposite place of Aguada, Puerto Rico.
We just had no idea how just tranquil and safe Aguada, Puerto Rico was.
Until we came to this. Is it a hellhole? Is it a dream city? Is it a nightmare? I don't know.
Well, let's talk real fast about our place.
Which is gorgeous. It's a wonderful value. So for $1,980 a month, we are staying in what has to be one of the nicest penthouse apartments in this city.
It really must be. Because, when we heard this is the only building like around here that even has a rooftop pool, which can I just tell you, we have the sickest rooftop pool.
The best views.
Which in itself is a blessing and a curse. We'll get to that.
We have floor-to-ceiling windows that overlook the city. We have a corner unit, so we just have views for days.
On the very, very top floor, a corner unit, and you can just see for literal miles. It's hard to even explain the scale. The mountains are so big, and they're ringing the city in, and I can just basically, like, we can see basically the whole city from here. And these airplanes come in, because there's just a lot of private planes here in cartel country, and they come and fly in to this tiny little airport that's in town. We can't fly out of here.
We're not allowed to.
We're not properly connected.
No gringos allowed.
No. And these planes are just constantly just zipping by our window, sometimes below our window.
Yeah, so like, oh, let me look down on this plane that's flying in. That's a fun experience.
Yeah, and it's so hard to explain the scale, because honestly, even when I'm looking at it, it's hard for me to grasp.
Well,
the
in
scale.
New York City, you might be high, right? So if you've been to New York City, and if you've been to a high rise in New York City, you can look around and you're able to basically look right across the street into another window. We are up so high, and our building is so much taller than basically all of the others around us, that we're looking down and have just an unobstructed view of the entire city and valley. And we're sitting in a bowl. The mountains are the edges.
Yeah.
And it's sick. And we have a sauna and a steam room and a gym and a co-working space in our building.
And this really is the most beautiful city I have ever seen. I can't imagine anything more beautiful.
And the prices.
Oh, girl, the prices.
So we'll get into all of this in the local flavor section, but suffice to say that bang for your buck, you're getting a lot of it out here.
You are getting a lot. But here's the thing. You're getting a lot that you aren't necessarily... At least that we didn't necessarily sign up for.
Okay, so do we talk about the pool first, or do we talk about the fixers first?
Let's talk about the pool.
Okay, so all right, let's talk about the dudes at the pool. Because I thought at first that maybe they were just trying to scare us with their stories, because I have a little brother who knows that I'm fairly gullible and likes to just tease me sometimes. And makes me think that things that aren't true might actually be true. My little brother is very good at this. And in recognizing a lot of these dudes at the pool who are largely American.
Yeah, a lot of gringos in this building.
I just kind of get that brother vibe from a lot of them, and that, like, they want to be protective. They might want to tell you some scary stories. But how much do I believe? I don't know. We've heard some shit, though.
Well, let's set the scene. So... this place is absolutely stunning, and the rooftop pool is just banging. I've never seen anything like it in my life.
No, never.
So these gringos were very, very excited to suit up and go check out this pool.
Yep.
We get up there, and it's just gringos for days. Just all kinds of gringos.
Just late 30s and older gringos.
Yes. And they just... We didn't think it was any big deal. We were just going to the pool. But all of these, like, kind of all of them gave us kind of the same
look and vibe, I would say. Kelly's making a face and just kind of, like, making a hand movement.
It's hard to... They're just, like, ladies. Like, what are you doing here? And it's kind of... part of it is that... Okay, so... when you come to Medellín and you book the penthouse suite in one of the nicest buildings in the best part of town, what you get here is a lot of gringos, and what you really get is a bunch of sex tourists.
We found the sex tourist building of choice.
Yeah, we're really in a filing cabinet for sex tourists.
All different flavors, A through Z.
Uh-huh.
What kind do you want?
Right, so when we hit the pool, there's often a lot of these, like, 30-plus gringos who look like our brother or our cousin or whatever. There's also usually, like, just a handful of 18-year-old prostitutes.
And maybe they're 18, honestly.
Maybe. Listen, I choose to believe.
It's a lot of faith you're putting into...
Because who am I going to tell?
You can't tell any... this is going to go into local flavor, but this actually makes me sick. Because I'm not judgy about prostitutes. If you want to go and exchange services for money... and it is a consensual exchange, and everyone involved is old enough to make an educated decision about said exchange,
right? It's
none of my business.
No issue with sex work.
But when
whatsoever.
that girl might actually be 14 and she still has braces on her teeth, and in the U.S. you can do something about that. But here, you eyes down, gringa. You keep your fucking mouth shut, because there's nobody to tell.
No,
and just this sickness in my stomach, and the sadness and the just disgust.
Well, and let's be clear that there are basically no women in this building.
None. Unless they're with a dude.
And this is a very big building.
Mm-hmm.
It's all guys.
And then your girls in the penthouse suite.
Right. And then there's us. And then there's, like, this whole building is, like, your cousin Greg, who... He travels a lot. He's single. Maybe he's a
drunk
divorcee.
And at the pool, and somebody needs to come get their cousin
Greg.
Come
get Greg. I know where he is.
He's here.
He's causing problems.
He is embarrassing your family.
He really is. You know what? Greg was raised better than this.
And his name isn't Greg, but you can imagine the family member that might be here that we're talking about.
I feel like we all have one, and I know what he's up to now.
He's in Medellín on a rooftop pool.
Banging teenagers. Hopefully teenagers.
God, I hope she's 18. I'm going to choose to believe. Anyway, so there are these dudes at the pool, and we talk to them. Because, you know, I actually don't have issues with the ones that are like, that chick is clearly 25.
That's fine.
She's got her boobies out.
That's okay.
You weren't expecting me to walk up to the pool when the two of you were having your little corner time.
Right.
I didn't.
Whatever that is.
Wasn't expecting to see just an eyeful of boobies.
Just knocking those puppies around.
Having a good time. I'm not here to ruin
That's good,
your
clean
time.
fun.
I will look the other way, sir.
No problem with that.
I'm certainly not going to judge you because I know that those boobies are at least 25 years old.
Yeah.
So
well, maybe like 3.
True story. Very true story.
The lady attached to them.
Astute observation, Kelly. So, well, you know, like, I don't have any issues with these dudes as long as the ladies that I deem are of age. You know, like, I deem these ladies to be of age, rather. So we've talked to some of them, and they tell us some stories, and they tell us stories of money laundering. Kelly, which I feel like looking around, we should recognize this. And as soon as they started saying, hey, ladies, do you see all these big-ass buildings with absolutely nothing in them? Like, it looks like Boiler Room in some of these high-rises.
Yeah, the sun. So, like, we're looking out at these office buildings that are part of this larger complex that has, like, a Starbucks and a Hard Rock.
There's a Hard Rock Cafe.
There's a Hard Rock Cafe. We're like, what the hell? All of these places are fucking empty, not Starbucks, because a Starbucks will never be empty.
Stays popping at Starbucks.
Stays popping. But like the Hard Rock, like all these things are empty. And then there's these big office buildings that are part of this complex. And when the sun just crests over the mountains in the morning and streams in those windows, there is not a goddamn thing in these buildings. They are cement floors and just not a fucking thing. And you're like, okay. And you look around at night, and like as soon as it's like 8 o'clock at night, and the city, it gives you the feeling that it's like 3 a.m. just based on the amount of lights that are on in windows. But the truth is that all of these buildings are, what, 20% occupied, maybe?
That is a generous estimate.
It is. It actually is. These buildings are empty as fuck because they are all just a front for the cartel money.
You go to a restaurant, and they are fully staffed, and the entire staff is sitting at a corner table
just playing cards,
very resentful at you when you walk in because now they have to work.
Right. And it is, but that's why there's all these casinos.
Yep.
That's why there's all these restaurants, all these empty buildings.
Taxis. It is not difficult to get a taxi in this town.
No.
Taxis everywhere. It's
not difficult to get anything in this town. You can get anything delivered. We'll talk about that on Local Flavor, but just you name it, girl.
Anything you want.
Ass, grass, what do you want?
McDonald's, they deliver.
They'll bring it.
Okay, so besides the money laundering, which kind of opened my eyes to things, and I was like, oh, you know what? Suddenly, I've seen Boiler Room before. So much of what I'm like, oh, that makes sense. I'm just drawing from my movies. So the movies that I've seen. So the next point is this Australian dude, who I still count as a gringo, really wanted to tell me about some chop shops. And he was like, do you know what a chop shop is? And I was like, of course I know what a chop shop is. I have seen both versions of Gone in 60 Seconds. I'm talking movie. Nick Cage and Angelina Jolie, plus the 1974 version.
Nick Cage can get this, by the way. Especially like a face-off Nicolas Cage.
So many of the ladies here. I'm catching major Angie J vibes off of the ladies who are just rolling around on their motorcycles with their helmets under their arms.
They are so fine.
Streets, just tight, ripped jeans, boots.
Carrie and I just drool over these chicks with these like motorcycle boots and their helmets, and they just shake that shiny ass hair out and just, goddamn,
like in a movie.
They're goddesses out here.
So this guy asked me, like, oh, so, you know, there are a lot of chop shops here. And I'm like, I didn't realize that car theft was such an issue here in Medellín.
Car theft. You sweet, sweet summer child.
No. It turns out, here, dear listener, if you don't know what a chop shop is, Medellín style, let me explain it to you.
Not for cars.
No, it's not for cars. It's for people. And they have these other people at the chop shops that they call surgeons.
Yeah, also misleading.
I do not think that these surgeons have taken the Hippocratic Oath.
I don't think they have. I don't think
no
you're supposed to cut people up and put them in barrels.
No.
That doesn't sound right.
So apparently there are just chop shops all over the cities that chop up people. The surgeons chop up people.
No, and the person who told us that in the context of, oh no, you don't need to be afraid here, because no unauthorized crimes occur in this neighborhood. And if they do, those people get sent to the chop shops. And I'm like, well, look at me just feeling very comforted.
I feel so safe now.
Yeah, like that's totally normal.
Thank you for telling me that.
Thank God they have these surgeons to chop up people who might want my iPhone.
So we have found a couple of fixers, or at least we're lining them up. One of these fixers that we're
gonna need some fixers. Let's be real.
Well, we've already met one of them, I think. His name is Santiago, and he goes by Santiago even though he's a good old Southern boy, because he's worried about being kidnapped.
Right.
A grown-ass man.
Yeah. Medellín problems.
So,
I don't even know how to talk about this.
So Santiago introduced himself by telling us this wonderful story about how he got hit by lightning in Guatemala.
on a volcano.
and his friend, so a bunch of people were holding hands because it was dark and you couldn't see where the edge of the trail was, and they were worried that they were going to fall off into this volcano, and so they're holding hands kind of daisy chain style and walking up this dark-ass mountain, except for a storm comes crawling in, and then lightning strikes, hits them. The dude at the end of the daisy chain gets blasted into the... Like, it sounds like I'm making this up, but I think he's telling the truth.
I think he's telling the truth, because so much of everything he said is checked out.
So this dude at the end of the daisy chain gets it the worst, I guess. I don't understand the physics of that.
I don't either.
But it doesn't matter. So they can't find him. He's just gone.
He got, like, shot off into the air.
He got shot off into the air, and his wife was there, and it took them 3 days to find this guy. And I guess in Guatemala, they don't want to have a dead... He was Canadian, I think.
Yeah.
They don't want to have a dead gringo on their hands.
No.
So they were trying to say that he wasn't dead, maybe, except for he was, and they had found him, and then his wife had to identify the body, and that was Santiago's first international trip.
And look at him just still out here traveling.
But very afraid of lightning. Just does not play with the lightning, I will say.
Can we also just say, the 23rd floor of a high-rise in Medellín, when there are lots of lightning storms, which there have been, it's apparently very rare here, but we've been getting a ton of them, is literally the scariest place you could possibly be in a lightning storm ever.
Or the coolest. It really depends on your perspective. So we have, in the corner, we have moved some furniture around to be able to suit our environment.
Right.
And we have created this little pillow nest with blankets that sits in the corner, and you can lie down, and your view is completely unobstructed, and you have like a 180-degree view of just the craziest storms as they're rolling in. And we're going to have videos on our Facebook page, because Kelly took just an amazing video of... It looked like a tornado.
We're up so high and we can see so much that you can see entire storm systems develop and roll through. And it's not just like there's clouds overhead. It's like you can see it coming and you're in the middle of it. It's hard to explain, but it's given me a whole new appreciation for just weather. I don't know. It's really, really, really weird.
Besides the weather, the crazy weather, we have met some really cool people. We met a webcam girl.
Yes.
At a digital nomad meetup. So the digital nomad scene in Medellín is up and popping. There are Facebook groups, digital nomads in Medellín. There are several Facebook groups for digital nomads and entrepreneurs in Medellín, actually. Yeah. And they just are hopping with good information and things to do and meetups. And we went to one of these meetups and we met a webcam girl who bought herself a Colombian husband.
She sure did. She's really got some hustle.
Oh, and she got such a great deal on that Colombian husband.
She did $1,000. It only took her 30 days and $1,000.
She was Australian, not American.
Yeah, but she found herself, she decided she wanted to live here. In 30 days and for $1,000, she found herself a Colombian husband.
She never sees that guy.
She
never talks to him.
Never talks to him. And they have to be married for, 3 years or 5 years or something like that? And then she can just divorce him and she can just be a Colombian citizen forever.
She's 2 years in. She's putting in that time.
And she has a Colombian boyfriend. I've seen him on Facebook. He seems fine with it.
And she's making money along the way. We also met an English teacher who's doing her own thing.
Yes, and I believe she's Canadian.
And then we met an American. We met a gringa. Her name is Stephanie O'Connell, and she is the millennial money expert.
Oh, and she is so great.
She came over, and we got some pool time in and talked money.
Yes, she is just really, really savvy. You should really check her out, StephanieO'Connell.com. It's Stephanie with an F, not PH.
Stefanie.
Yeah, and she really, really knows her stuff. She's a super cool girl. She was traveling in Colombia by herself and like staying in a hostel, which I just have all of the mad respect for and will literally never do.
No, and I don't think that she will do that here again. It didn't sound like.
No, it sounded like she ran into some situations that were a little sketchier than she was
There were bed bugs. Speaking of sketchy situations... Oh, girl. It is day 5. Well, on day 5. It is day 8. On day 5, we had a sketchy situation. We met a man who we won't get into details.
I mean, honestly, like, we're really not trying to be coy here. I'm afraid to talk about it.
I am also afraid to talk about it.
I would like to not talk about it. Maybe we'll tell the story at some point, but, like, we are here and we're going to be here. Oh, the other thing is right before we met this person and had this sketchy situation.
We loved it so much we extended our stay.
Right. This was when we were... a whole 4 days ago when we were young and innocent. And all we saw were like just some slamming brunch prices, killer views, awesome pool. And we're like 6 weeks, let's do, like, we were only going to be here for 4 weeks for like gringa.
6, maybe 8.
Maybe 8, you know? So we extended for another 2 weeks and we're kind of already locked into that. In the name of our safety, we would 100% walk away from that. We've had that conversation.
We have had that conversation.
Our lives are a lot more important than any money that we might lose.
Right.
We seriously considered leaving.
We did. Instead, we've just been holed up in our apartment for the last 4 days.
Yeah, we are not going to get into the story at all, but I will say, so Kari and I, we're fun girls, you know?
Yeah.
And the thing I will say about me and Kari, and the thing that I love so much about our friendship, one of the many things I love so much about our friendship, is that Kari is like me and that, like, kind of anything for a good story.
I like weird stuff. I just want to press my face up as close as I can against that glass.
Right.
Where I can just get the closest view of the weirdest shit without actually getting in danger.
Yeah. And the problem is that, for one, as we talked about in the Uncle Tom episode, our sketch radar is not super calibrated.
Uncalibrated.
We also don't, it's just context is hard to figure out here. It's hard to know, like at what point does something cross the line from being just weird to being actually pretty terrifying. And the thing is with me and Kari is that, like, there's no one to really put the brakes on. If anything, I feel like that we've had to talk about this too, like ways to work around this. Because the truth is that between us, there's not someone to really put the brakes on, because what happens is that we're both really intrigued by the weird. But now I've got this, like, ride or die partner.
Right. And it makes you feel emboldened.
Yeah,
like, you're not alone in this.
Yeah, well, and you're fine. You're not stressed out at all. You're like, oh, it's like, if it's getting weird, it's just getting good. And I'm like, same, you know? And so we're just locked in. And usually I would have, if there was someone else there, they would be like, let's get the fuck out of here. Like, what's happening? And I'd be like, oh, yeah. Oh, this is really weird, isn't it?
It is.
You know, this is really, oh, this is dangerous. And I'm like, oh, gotcha. Okay. But, like, between the two of us, we're both just like,
well, this seems abnormal.
Yeah, this is the strangest fucking shit I've ever seen. And so
let's go to dinner with it.
Yeah, let's really just get in there. So we got involved in just one evening with someone who is scary in a way that I don't think I've ever encountered.
No, me neither. And he didn't seem that scary at first, but it just kept going up a notch, up a notch, up a notch, to the point where finally Kelly and I were at dinner with this dude, and we were like, we've just got to go. So we left him at dinner.
Yeah.
Because he was getting handsy with me. He was being disrespectful in general. I was not there for that shit. I thought it was just a friendly, I know of a good place in town. I'm well connected here. Let me just take you to a nice dinner. He did introduce us to a very nice burrata salad, I will say.
He really did. But no, I think that person is that person is scary in a way that I have never encountered before, ever, and that I thought only happened in movies. And I think the fact that we've never encountered something like that before, and we just found this up at the pool.
We did.
So this person lives in our building. So that's why we haven't left, because I'm worried about running into this person in the elevator. I don't know what's going to happen.
I am nervous and scared.
It could be a very big mistake that we're staying here.
But we talked about this because we sat down, we looked at each other and said, do you want to leave? Because we are never in a situation where we can't get out of it. That is actually really important. If you come out here and you live your life as a digital nomad and you do not have get out money, you are screwing yourself in a way that you don't even understand.
Right, because you don't know what's going to happen. And it's kind of the secret sixth rule of workationing is
you always have to be able to get out.
Always.
And be willing to before it's too late.
And I don't think we're going to.
No, I mean, we talked about this. Like, he was never threatening toward us. It was very clear that he was a very dangerous man.
I think that he will probably be moved on to something else. I don't think that we're important enough to be worth the trouble.
But we are laying low. Long story short, we got very scared. We scared ourselves early on. We scared ourselves after we had already extended the trip, which does not make a difference to me in regards to whether or not we leave early. Because, again, my safety is of paramount importance to me, more so than anything else.
Yeah, no, my life is worth $1,000, maybe even $2,000, you know?
Don't say that, you'll get kidnapped.
Right, exactly. It's worth nothing. You can get nothing for me. Do you hear me? I'm an orphan.
Ramon Serrano.
Yeah.
We'll talk about that too. So, anyway, we have just been in our apartment working a lot, just putting in those hours.
Just getting so much work done.
Very productive.
So productive, these two gringos.
It is a really good thing we went grocery shopping.
I was going to say, like, we're
well stocked.
We're eventually going to run out of coffee.
I really wish that we had a peephole on the door. That's something we didn't notice until we got into this situation. We lived here for days without noticing that we don't have a peephole on the door until somebody came knocking and we didn't know who it was.
Right.
And the only way for us to know who was on the other side of that door was to open it.
Well, and here's the other thing that you don't think about is that when we came to this building, I know we talked about it a little bit in our Where We Went Wrong episode in Puerto Rico.
See?
Is that we realized at night there that we were really isolated, that there was no one around. And so we really thought that we had solved this safety issue and also the visibility issue by coming into a building that it's a high rise. There's a ton of apartments here. There's security. There's a gate. Like, that felt like the solution to that problem.
Hey, Kelly, do you know the security people? Do you know who runs the security people?
Yeah, this whole building's probably just a front for a cartel anyways.
Well, what I will say is that these floor-to-ceiling windows are just very conducive to drones popping all up in them, because we haven't even talked about that.
We haven't talked about the drones.
There are drones that come up.
Because that's a thing.
To the high-rise floor. And all of a sudden, you look at a light, and you're like, is it a plane?
No, we had a drone come, 15 feet outside of our window?
No, that's not even true. It was way closer than that. I could have thrown a shoe and hit it, and I wouldn't have had to throw very hard. I should have done it, except for you don't know who's below you. You don't know who your shoe might hit and offend on the ground level when you're just trying to knock out that drone. So you just creeping in your apartment windows.
You just close those blinds, Gringa. I don't know what else to tell you. And we didn't think about, we thought we would be less visible because we're in this big building. What we didn't realize is that we are literally in the top floor corner suite of probably the best building in the best neighborhood.
Would you like to put yourself in a glass cage on full display, Gringa? Because that's what we did.
That's exactly what we did. And we are in absolutely one of the best places. We're in the best place in this building and one of the best buildings.
Yeah.
I get nervous every time we just hit our floor number because then everybody knows where we are.
Yep.
We're up high.
Well, I mean, that drone knows where we are.
God damn. No, it's so fucking scary. And like, the other thing is what you don't realize is that like, this isn't like a normal building, okay? Part of the reason that the city is so beautiful is because all of these buildings look the same. You know what I mean? Like,
there's a congruency to the visual art display that is the skyline of the city.
Right. And I didn't know whether or not to believe these people, except that what they're telling me checks out. Because when I look around here, first of all, if you even look at the Wikipedia page, they say that like there's a few businessmen that run this town.
You know they're not business ladies.
No, they sure aren't. And one of them's like a construction czar, basically. And like, that's pretty fucking clear because all of these buildings are made out of the exact same materials.
He has a preferred design aesthetic.
He sure does. He sure does. And so this place looks like all these other places. It does not seem to be very full at all. And we're in this building and it's like, so yeah, there's security, but like literally who does the security work for?
Not me. Not this Gringa.
No. And they do seem very, very attentive, but like everyone in this town, you have to wonder who they work for.
So look forward to that when you come to Medellín.
It's really beautiful.
You don't catch that tidbit in the tour guides, but know that you can get just a great deal on a bird cage to put yourself on display in.
Yeah, I really think we really, really thought that we had made a much better decision about where to stay. And this place is incredible.
It's the best place I've ever lived in my life. Like when I grew up really poor.
Me too.
Really poor. And I've never lived like this before. I feel very, very fancy. I imagine that this is what Melania Trump must feel like.
Yes. Just up in Trump Tower, just sashaying around in the finest silks.
Yes. Looking like Blanche from Golden Girls in her day-night clothes.
Yes.
So there are some good things about it. And like I said, we are getting some work done. So there's a bright side.
Right. But I don't know that this was the safest decision. It definitely was not the least visual. And so much of that just comes down to like what makes you visible and what makes you safe and what is a smart decision depends so much on the culture of a place.
And where you are in it varies city by city.
And listen, I only knew about Medellín because of the Medellín cartel. That was literally all of the information that I had,
and the Reddit thread. I showed you that Reddit thread that said this place was going to be awesome.
It was a very compelling Reddit thread.
There's a Forbes article, actually, that I just shared on the Workationing Facebook page. Facebook.com/workationing. And it's the top 8 cities in the world where life is so wonderful and cheap you don't even need a job. Medellín, number 2 on that city. El Poblado, the neighborhood of Medellín, the fancy neighborhood in Medellín where we're staying. Number 2 on that list.
And we're just up here in like the Beyonce suite. We're like the Beyonce of like the Shakira of Colombia.
These articles are all written by men though. And so they're not dealing with the same shit that we are, especially as 2 ladies traveling together. Because do we look like lesbians?
No, because that's why they're so weird up at the pool. Because they're just like, ladies, like what are you doing here? And it starts off kind of as sort of surprise,
right?
Because they're just trying to knock some hooker boobies around at the pool, have a good time, and then suddenly these 2 gringas show up with their like plastic cup of Chardonnay, just like, hey boys,
pool time on a Saturday.
Pool time, it's Saturday. And they're just like, first of all, kind of annoyed that we're there, I feel like. They're like,
no, because it's ruining their groove, because they get to all do that shit at the pool together and they're all in on the same club. Then we come in and like, where are our prostitutes?
No, and we literally look just like their sister, their cousin, because that's who they look like to me.
We don't look like the women that they're hiring. I will tell you that much.
Not at all. Not at all. Nobody will pay for this here, I don't think. And I don't blame them. The women here are absurd. They are so fucking beautiful. But they're just like, what are you doing here? But then they switch very quickly from being kind of put off to being like pretty openly concerned. They're just like, Gringas, like, did you
get lost on your way to San Francisco, Gringa?
Yeah, were you trying to go to Cancun?
Did you get on the wrong plane?
Did you think this was spring break, Gringa?
It's not.
Can we call somebody?
Where's your brother?
Yeah, like, is there
Listen, I don't have to call your dad or your boyfriend.
Like, does anyone know you're here? Like, how many people have looked at us and just been like, I can't believe you're here?
No, Santiago is just, he thinks it's great, though. He's like, you ladies have balls, he says.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't call us gringos because he's a gringo, but he's just like, you ladies, really? Genuinely concerned. So, I mean, I am also, and this is coming hot on the heels of Uncle Tom's letter. And if you haven't listened to that Uncle Tom's letter episode, please do so, because there are some hot takes
real
in
good
there.
advice. I'm sure Uncle Tom is listening to this right now and being like, just
okay. All of this happened before the letter, though.
Right. It did. And we didn't have any concept of listen, what's so cool about this? I love just touching down in a place and not really knowing about it and finding out. That's just really dangerous as fuck.
Finding
sometimes.
out what, though? Because
Right.
what we found out here is just that maybe, ladies, you should be literally anywhere but here.
Right.
Maybe not Kosovo. Maybe I've heard really bad things about Venezuela right now.
Yeah, let's not
so
go
ladies,
there.
don't you go there. But in Guatemala, I hear, is kind of tough. So ladies, don't go there either. But literally anywhere else is better than where you are.
Right.
And I feel it.
I'm going to say this. We have not left this place in a few days. I am thoroughly sketched out. I have also never seen such a beautiful city. And in a sick way, I've never felt more alive. Like, these are real problems. Maybe too real. But I feel like there's something about this that I want to see through.
You and I had the conversation to where we're not so sketched out that we want to leave just yet. At the next sign of danger, you and I are out. We've agreed that.
No, the next time anything
we're just
fucked
gonna
up
drive to the
happens,
airport and book a flight on the way there.
Literally.
Anywhere. The benefits of traveling with a carry-on, it takes you 0 time to pack up your stuff.
Totally. And I would leave my shit behind. Like, if things got that bad, I would go. And if even one more sketchy ass thing happens, I think because that was scary enough. Like, we're honestly, like, we're not trying to be dramatic. We just really don't feel safe talking about what happened. It was the scariest night of my life.
It was traumatic.
Yeah.
If it's the scariest, I don't want to dwell on this. If it's the scariest night of your life, then maybe we should leave. But we already agreed that we're not going to.
No,
but we can.
Listen,
did you see how you rationalize it? No, I mean, it was the scariest night of my life, but I'm still not so scared that I'm going to dip out.
Is it bad that there's a weird part of me that, like, as much as terrified as I am, I've never experienced something like that before. I learned something. I saw some shit.
No, I did too. You want to talk about hard-earned travel lessons. We have learned some, but do not lose your sense of what weird is. Do not lose your sense of, like, what safe is. And I'm not willing to go chasing a good story down past the point of no return.
No, and
you
totally
never know
agree
what
with
the
that.
point of no return is.
You don't.
Unless you're looking at your fuel gauge, you have no fucking clue what your point of no return is.
Well, and Kari and I have talked a lot about how we are going to mitigate that in the future, because we both have this propensity to follow the weird, and you don't know where the point of no return is, which is why you really reminds me of like what Angela Keaton said. Like, the second you get that feeling that something's sketchy, you don't need evidence.
Nope.
You just bail, which is what we should have done, because there were plenty of red flags.
There were some red flags, and we did leave though. We got up and left the dude at the dinner table.
No, we did, but we probably should have ducked before that.
Oh, I agree with you. We talked about that, but let's not get into the details.
Right. But I think our biggest mistake, and something that we really learned, is that, first of all, we need to listen to that feeling. We always need to listen to that feeling. And number 2, we need to check in with each other.
Well, moving forward after this, the travel hack, and we'll talk about this on Travel Hacks and Technical Difficulties, but the travel hack we came up with for staying safe and checking in with each other is any time you're about to maybe even consider moving to a new location, you go to the bathroom. I've got to go to the bathroom. You know what? I really have to go to the bathroom as well. Let's walk there together, Gringa.
Right.
Let's have a little bathroom girl time, which is totally normal anyway.
Totally normal. Actually, Kari and I are totally not those girls. We're not the girls who go to the bathroom together. But we are now.
We go to the bathroom together every single time.
That's really fucking crucial.
And we check in with each other. How are you feeling?
Right, because it's like what we talked about with that Uber situation in a past episode, where long story short, I got into a sketchy Uber with my friends. It was really fucking weird and sketchy, and we should have gotten out, but we didn't, and it was literally just for the sake of being polite. And we needed to check in with each other instead of just continuing to stay in this situation because it would have been awkward to leave.
Right.
And so we're really trying to, number one, just be more aware of our own sketch radar, and then also religiously check in with each other even if we don't feel like we need to, because that just has to be.
You have to build that in.
It just has to be a habit.
You have to build it into your experience, because otherwise then it becomes weird. Like, do you want to go to the bathroom? Well, I don't feel like I need to go to the bathroom. Do you know what I mean? It's just we always go to the bathroom together. We always have that conversation. We always have just a frank check-in on how are you feeling? How safe is this situation?
And then you can skip out straight from the bathroom.
You can just fucking leave from the bathroom. And it doesn't need to be a thing. Because what we did was we left right from the table. We told dude we were leaving him at the table. It was just too much, and we were like, oh, this is done. We're up and out.
Oh, yeah.
Which I don't know was the best move.
I know, because what I know about myself now is that when I get in a really scary situation with somebody who's really scary, my instinct is to not, like, get small and, like, just look for an out. My instinct is to tell that person about themselves. And, like, I am going to be killed out here if I don't get that under control.
Well, yeah, there's that. And also what I learned about myself is that I go into placate mode. You're making me feel very uncomfortable. Well, I don't want to set you off anymore. So I'm just going to make things muy tranquilo until the point where I think I can slither away in a way that's going to be least offensive to you. Because what I don't want is for you to touch me anymore.
Right. So we each had like a very different approach to that. Neither of which I feel like is the best move.
No, I think there's some sort of... I don't know what the best move is. I don't
know
situation. Either. If you're listening to this and you have advice...
Yeah, maybe it's time for another Uncle Tom letter. What is the best move? When you find yourself knee deep in some cartel shit and you're not really sure what to do.
And you're scared.
You're so scared.
We were scared. We were very, very scared.
I've never been so scared in my life. And I will tell you, we lock our apartment at night, and I lock the door to my bedroom at night, and then I just cross my fingers.
So on that note, I think that wraps up this episode of
Medellín.
Workationing.
It's fantastic.
Yeah, you're going to love Medellín. You're going to find it on Reddit. There's a
it.
Forbes article. It's going to make it sound real great. There are two paragraphs in a Forbes article that just will make you want to book a plane ticket.
Listen, the brunch prices really can't be beat.
You can get surf and turf for $11.
I just don't even know how to deal with this.
Okay, so I think that wraps, right? I think it's going to get better.
I do. I will leave if we have to, but I think we're going to try to stick this out. And I don't even know what to say.
This has been another episode of the Workationing podcast. If Kelly and I go missing, please call Nancy Grace. Tell her I am blonde, even if Kelly is not.
So I told Carrie if I get kidnapped to call Nancy Grace to say my very blonde friend.
She's so beautiful,
so pretty, so blonde. Oh, the humanity.
The PTA is really gonna miss her.
Yeah.
She was a mother and a wife.
Oh,
and a sister.
Former beauty queen. God damn.
We gotta find this
Such a tragedy.
Oh God! Somebody come find us if we go missing.
Yeah, somebody.
And actually, I did send a couple of friends identifying characteristics of this man, and if we go missing, So I actually took that step.
Right. I don't know that anyone can touch that dude. I guess we'll. I don't know, man. Let's just hope we don't die. I love you, Mom.
The end of the episode.
It's such a sin. I think we did it. This has been another episode of the Workationing podcast. If you like what you heard here, make sure to like, rate, subscribe, and leave us a review on iTunes, SoundCloud, Google Play, or wherever else on the internet you're hearing this.
You can also go to workationing.com. That's workationing.com. just lizard dry mouth.
Wet my whistle, excuse me. Like the Sahara. All right.